Don't. Trying to look out there.
But it's not like that's a call.
She knows the else.
I don't know. I don't think it's.
They made a little. They Photoshop.
I don't remember.
San Diego.
I wasn't allowed.
Yeah. Exactly.
Remember you. You know, I gotta tell you, I can't.
There was a guy on,
It started. Barely remember this.
remember Bakersfield.
They got my license. Okay.
Mics are going hot.
I know elevator music.
We can sing maybe.
Maybe not.
You know what?
That's what kids were here.
I know.
You don't
have a theme song. Like this on my ring.
Thanks for having us.
Preston would love that. Yeah.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's 5 o'clock and we'll get started on the pre-commission agenda. First work session we have is the ATHD Sweeper Art Contest Winner presentation.
Good evening, Madam President, Commissioners. Emma Bowers, Digital Media Coordinator for the record. We're going to do things a little out of conventional order because we're going to be battling sunlight. We're going to take some pictures outside with our winners first. We have our 4 new sweepers outside. So I'd like to invite you to come outside for about 10 minutes. So bring a coat if you need. Put on smiling, happy faces.
Perfect.
Sat down.
Or the work session comes after. So if maybe there aren't any slides on the audit. Slides that she was presenting, Jen Humphreys. He's going to introduce the person that comes up from the student audit. So she might have her own slides.
I bet Jen, is Jen Humphreys even here?
I was gonna say, I don't think I saw her in the room.
I bet it will be Sherwin.
Okay, and Sherwin went outside. Let me go talk to Sherwin real quick.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, usually with them, there's no presentation, is there?
I couldn't remember if they had one yesterday.
Usually when the auditors come, they just come up and they just talk a little bit because it's funny. We have to have a motion to accept it, but there's nothing that they can change on it. The audit's the audit, but it's a formality that the commission has to accept the audit.
Do you know who the contractor is?
So there's no really present bill, just be like, stuff was great and helpful. We might have found,
When there's signs or.
we used to just put it on the consent agenda. We didn't even have it for me. are growing.
Are they supposed to do? Are they doing the irrigation?
It needs to be on.
I don't know what the head accountant charges per hour, but don't be bullying us for it. So like, they don't come for free.
But also.
Oh, she's here. She will be. Are you gonna introduce? There you go. Presentation, right?
Okay, not any people coming? If there's any people coming?
Kristen's coming, yeah.
Okay, just saw you on there and we're like, I don't have a presentation.
Yeah, no, basically she's just gonna get up and say, you guys are awesome.
Okay.
That was great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You're a joy to audit.
They do tell us that.
Well, they did, when I was on the fair board, I was doing. Oh, that's for Ellis.
I think we're good.
Well, you never know if that's the true general word. Oh, oh, okay, no, I don't, that's what I gotta find.
So my first set of research, I did the first batch, only have now, I'm planning 2 weeks.
Second one, that.
So essentially the long. I'm just gonna.
Oh, yeah,
We didn't monitor yet.
no, that's one of those weird
I feel like that one's good.
places.
They're all.
So. We'll see.
You almost need a dog book, kind of.
Yeah, oh yeah. And we.
Spoken on that.
Yeah, they're built.
God, why would they care? It's. The amount of parking you should on down there.
There's 4-story. 4-story.
4-story.
4-story. And.
That's good. Saturday mornings.
Start charging that 3-card garage.
They have a little sign out there, $5. You guys build it yourself, basically. I mean, you hire a builder, but
Yeah.
you.
No presentation.
You did that.
Perfect, yeah, and.
You snuck in after
So
I went out to go outside.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
We're doing all those wonderful photos. It wasn't a have to.
No presentation necessary.
No presentation necessary. Well, because he asked me if I was going first, so really that wasn't what his question was. It was like, should there be a presentation before yours?
No,
Because I'm
no,
not
that should not be.
first, fine with it.
Wildlife.
After.
I'm sorry, I had to run out.
That's too bad,
No,
it's great
it's-
access.
It's nice to have
Yeah, I
that
got
brisk coolness.
The
Wow.
freezing.
Pictures have been so cold. Like, it's funny because I was in San Francisco last week
Oh.
and I met up with a bunch of people from like Florida and Louisiana.
Yeah.
And Texas, and they're like, oh, it's so cold. I'm like 55. Like, you guys are babies.
Well, I-
Weather. I was sweating on my rocks in the morning. I get back here single digits to walk my dog. I'm wearing 2 pairs of pants. Yeah. So cold.
It
Vegas,
has a deed restriction.
Friday.
Just,
And my husband was so mad because it's supposed to be 75 and it dropped to 55. And I'm like, I don't care. It is still warmer.
It's gonna seem really warm compared to single and barely freezing.
Fancies. Yeah, the county would make.
I need to go somewhere where there's snow. I don't mind the cold. I need a snow fix. I don't.
You so focused.
I'm so sad watching all my friends in Texas and Florida and Louisiana getting snow. My favorite one was my friend from Louisiana posted a picture of a tire and instead of
Put that big
posting
apartment
Mardi Gras
right
wedges. Like that's.
I take that over snow chains.
I don't need it like all the time, but I do just need a, I'm thinking about getting a cabin somewhere,
Oh, yeah.
just having, you know, for the weekend.
Yeah, like McCall. like-
Well,
You know, I don't want McCall, I want someplace more remote.
Yeah, Donley.
More
What's good?
remote.
Even more of it.
More food.
Well, there's one at the end of the road. No.
That's all that.
Just go up West Mountains.
Like
Keep
Idaho
going.
City maybe, or,
Here's what we do.
you know, someplace between
Yeah.
Idaho City and.
The only thing I know
Don't
is
touch
that
it.
if the power
Don't.
goes out, you're stuck with the
I got it
generator.
yesterday,
It's
I've been
cold.
outside, I
That
was
big-
freezing. She was giving me, and I just went.
Not when it's that cold.
We had, when I was in
That'll
Garden
shut her up.
Valley last summer, we were up there when the fires were happening
Uh-huh.
on the way up, so we had gotten up before the fire.
Okay.
It was the same concept.
And then once I was past it, then my landlord, not my landlord, the owner of
Yeah.
Airbnb said, we just got
That's
into it
ridiculous.
here, that there's power outage. I'm like,
It's so
what?
hard.
Like, no power outage, and then like 5 minutes later, we lost power.
Yeah.
But she was due to the fires, I'm like, what? But I was so emotive.
Yeah.
Cabin mode, and, yeah, the fires
And then we had
basically,
to file.
one of the lines
flat
got
title action
cut, and
because
so we were in the dark for a little
the
while.
deeds were
I
also.
mean, it wasn't cold, it's not summer.
Yeah.
But we were like lighting candles and like, what are we gonna do? Like talk?
Sit around
I
and
don't know.
stare at each other.
Weird. I wanna go somewhere and not sitting watching TV.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the funny thing is a lot of those easements,
Like,
when
sit
they get
and
them,
watch
they
a
do it
show,
right
drink
now,
hot
they
cocoa,
basically
and-
say.
Yeah.
What
You
do
know,
you
probably-
If only you didn't have to drive in it
I
to
like
get
it.
there.
I like
Trigger.
I do, I enjoy, I like snow driving.
I can't.
I have a Subaru.
So.
Yeah.
And I like putting it into
They were
manual,
silent.
driving manual.
Nope. Too much of a control.
I like it. I feel like cars. you need-
Well, then you have to get into.
Yeah.
suburbs.
Not that far.
It's a higher assessment.
Might be,
Yeah. That is anything. Parking.
my explanation.
You know, her husband. Doing soccer.
Oh.
He's got a contract. He's.
We've got a few minutes, sure. They don't really TCHE stuff, they're just.
Okay.
Money related.
No, I got everybody investors. So. I know. I know that they're gonna use famous.
Oh, okay.
McCormick. They're gonna use the same. Coming down. I think they have.
Yeah, that's. It's a developer.
Good all goes. When you're ready, you just give me a thumbs up.
Is that? Okay, well.
Yeah, for the most part.
All right, we're back in. Congratulations to all the winners. Thank you so much for sharing your artistic talent and creativity and really great work. It's going to be exciting to see those sweepers out and about. And so everybody should keep their eye out for the great work. Emma, did you have additional?
I just have a couple of slides I'd like
Okay,
to
perfect.
present if you don't mind. Okay, once again, my name is Emma Bowers, Digital Media Coordinator on the Communications team. I'm here tonight to formally present the winners of our 2024 ACHD Art Contest. This is the second art contest that I've been a part of, but I know there's been ones in the past, and you've probably seen the art not zooming, they only go like 3 miles an hour. Crawling through the county. So this contest is open to Ada County residents in grades 6 to 12, and this year the theme was work zone safety. And I think you probably caught that outside. And I really appreciate all the creativity that was presented. We received several submissions from the public and also several from the children of ACHD employees. That was new this year to allow internal competition. They were judged as a separate group apart from our public. Submissions included drawings, paintings, and graphic design. Just a quick shout out to our judges, Mark McAllister, Jennifer Stalmanson, Sneha Sharma, and Talon Bazia. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Sneha and Talon are both from our contest before and from our 22 art contest. So they joined us as judges this year, which was very exciting. First winner is Lilia Lamb. She is, she is in grade 9 now, but she was in grade 8 when this was produced. Like Candy pointed out, one of my favorite things about this one is the invisible man in the crane. I thought that was very cool. So congratulations. The next winner is Matthias Yang, who was in grade 6, in grade 7 now. Allie Russell in grade 8, grade 9 now. And our employee child, not employee child, the child of an employee, apologies, Ashlyn Carnegie, who's the daughter of our maintenance manager. So she knew a lot of good things to put up there. So congrats. I'll stand for any questions or comments. Okay.
Great job.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great job, everyone.
And now the important part. Yes, the important part, the part that you came in person for. Right. Go. Let's see. And then down here. Congratulations.
Good job. Thank you. Well, thank you guys.
All right. Thanks again for your submission and congratulations for winning. That will move us to the next thing in the pre-commission agenda. I don't have anything for the president's report. Are there any general housekeeping or agenda items? Oh, sorry. We're gonna be at these for 14 minutes. We'll come back at 5:30. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for coming.
Thanks so much.
Good. Feel free to take pictures if you would like. But we'll be posting pictures on social media. Hey, I might ask. Okay. We'll post them probably the rest of this. Next. You want to spot you guys a little bit more? Or if you have anything else or questions, please feel free to ask. You have my email. Thank you.
Because he gets it.
You don't have to get home.
So we will be posting
Wait, wait,
about
Dad, is the road out there a one-way road?
this week. Is that okay that we publish the picture? Yeah. Okay, perfect. But if you guys have any questions or anything, please reach out.
Oh, it was fun.
Okay. Thank you for switching up the time.
Yeah, traffic was in our favor. We made it.
Perfect. That's very good to hear on your way to. I also live in West Meridian, so
We're by the 10-mile exit.
Yeah. I used to live at 10 Mile in Franklin.
Yes.
Yeah, so I live in downtown Meridian now. But no, I totally understand.
This is such a great program that you guys do for the.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's really fun. And the guys love driving the cars with our.
Oh, I
Like,
bet.
it's just a little extra serotonin boost.
Are they drawing straws for who gets to have it that week?
I think that once you get a truck, it's normally
It's your-
there, but maybe I could wrong. They might have to share it with one of the night.
but
I was like, I wonder if they have like a scene over at that, so you could go.
We don't have it that specific. We do have like a sweeper mask.
Yeah.
But I think I saw your son. Is that, if they were like.
I saw like.
We try, that doesn't always happen, but. Yeah, we try, if it works out. Okay. Absolutely. Have a good night.
Thanks you.
Children.
Are we leaving?
You're so nice.
I can't.
I think it might be, yeah, I think we might want her.
Test, test. Test.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Why waste my time? Just put a tube right there. I will.
All right, it's 5:30. We're back for the pre-commission agenda. I do not have a president's report. Are there any general housekeeping items or discussions on the agenda? Seeing none, I'm gonna hand it over to Justin for the director's report.
Well, thank you so much, Madam President, members of the commission. Glad to be here tonight, standing in for Director Head. He's traveling, as you know. He's probably on a roller coaster right now at Disneyland, so good for him. Good for him, and we're glad to pinch hit tonight on his behalf. I just wanted to touch on a few items in the director's report this evening, bring the commission up to speed on a few things, and take any questions you may have. First things first, so on Friday, this will be the last day at the Orchard offices for the staff that works up at that facility. As you're well aware, we're in the process of our phase 1 move to the Meeker building. So the staff will be, we're all packing up. I happen to sit up there, so we're all packing up this week, getting everything ready to go. Looking forward to this move. We're still working on completing the construction, the tenant improvements at the Meeker facility. So there's a kind of a phased approach here. There will be some work from home for staff that in this transition period that'll work, which we're really good at and have a lot of practice at. So we're not worried about that at all. And then the kind of final move, we're targeting that mid-February, hopefully just a few weeks. To get into the building and get the first group of staff members over there. So exciting times at the Highway District as we execute this multi-phased approach to getting everything squared away. So wanted to just remind you of that. We're outreach to customers, letting everyone know what's going on. We're working on that. So in the interim, though, headquarters remains open for business, and we will have staff, especially from our development services team, stationed here at headquarters to take any business that comes through the door. So no interruption whatsoever to our operations. I also wanted to highlight tonight a program that we're beginning to execute this year related to our sweeping efforts. As you know, ACHD has extensive responsibilities when it comes to our NPDES permit related to stormwater quality. Street sweeping is a big part of that program. What we're trying, and one of the challenges we faced over the years, is parking, especially in the north end area of Boise, where we have a lot of needs related to stormwater management and also a lot of on-street parking demand in those areas. So the team has been thinking about this and planning for this for a long time, and has developed this program that we're going to roll out this year that we're excited about, that really will create a lot more communication with the neighborhood and specific areas of the neighborhood about our schedule, so that we're arriving predictably. We're also asking the neighborhood to join with us in this program and move their vehicles out of the way so that we can sweep more effectively and efficiently, ultimately trying to gather up as much debris as we can. That's the goal. So in January, we're going to collect some before data. So we'll go out in our standard operations. We're going to be monitoring vehicle counts, curb access, different loads related to our sweeping capacity. So we'll have some good data. And then as spring ramps up, we're going to initiate this program, which goes into these very planned routes, very regular. The full communication strategy is a big part of this. So Shandy and her team have developed a plan to reach out to those neighbors, let them know when we're coming. We'll then be collecting that same data with the hope that we have a more effective program, less cars in the way, and really collaborating with the neighborhood on this. just wanted to show you the dark blue is the focus area. It's not the entire north end. This is the area, this specific drainage area that we want to really focus on as it relates to this part of town. And fortunately, it's a grid pattern, so it allows for some pretty predictable routes and communication. This day on this side of the street, this day on the other side of the street type thing, which is common in other areas. So we're excited about this program. We're hoping to see some increased efficiency and effectiveness. And we'll be back to you with a report on how everything's going as we get a little bit deeper. So wanted to highlight this great effort from the team to come up with this plan and be more effective.
Madam President, Commissioner Goldberg.
Yes, so Justin, I have a question, one slide back. In the spirit of cross-training our employees, is that Scott's spirit?
No, Scott Spear, our Assistant
Not a
General
pilot,
Counsel,
I
will
know
not be
you can
driving a
handle it,
sweeper.
just-
But I like the idea, Commissioner. I'll talk to him about it. We'll see what we can do.
Commissioner Pickering.
Thanks, Madam President. Justin, back on slide. So I actually heard a lot, I mean, from like, I think about 5 different folks about wanting deeper communications ahead of time about the sweeping. So I just would love to know kind of what is different about this communication strategy than what we've done in the past. That's all right.
Madam President, Commissioner Pickering. Honestly, we don't do a ton of communication now because there's not predictability. So this is, they'll be in 118 and 125 maintenance areas. And they'll be starting in that section that you saw in that highlighted map in those areas. The areas are larger than that. They're going to start in those areas, which gives predictability to where we actually can communicate. Right now, we don't have the predictability enough to be able to communicate. They can follow along and see somebody might be in your area next week, maybe. Of course, everything is weather dependent and that'll be part of the communication. So knowing that, just going into what our communication strategy is for this, we will have signage in the areas. We're doing full mailers to all of 118 and 125. We've created subscriptions in our Gov Delivery so they can sign up for their specific maintenance area, which then will allow us to text them. So we don't necessarily have to be as predictable. We can give them a general time frame, have them sign up. And then similar to how we do chip seal, where we send like a message every Friday before we move to the next chip seal area, we'll be able to do that. So once we get them signed up, then we can be sending them messages that we know we're going to be there tomorrow and here's where you need to park. So we've got the signage in the areas. We'll be working really closely with Nina. We have Tom and Lloyd are both joining Aaron to go to the Nina meeting at the end of the month, where we'll be discussing this as well. And that part's huge. Then social media, we will be targeting this area as well. And then utilizing Nina's resources on social media also. So honestly, everything is different because we just haven't had the opportunity to be this predictable in the past. And we're really excited about that.
That's fabulous, because one person in particular was like, I would love to see a sign or like that personal alert that they're coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Even with a larger window so that they know that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's adapting on both ends. Communications and the sweeper team's been really great on Brim Crews stepping up and saying, we'll set these exact dates and we'll try it out. It's pilot. We're really excited to see where it goes.
That's great.
Thank you.
I think that sounds really exciting. I know this has been kind of a point of frustration in the north end. And so I think this is a great approach and look forward to hearing how it works out.
Thank you, commissioners. One other thing when it comes to coordination and collaboration, we haven't had to use it much this year, which is a good thing. This relates to snow call. One of the things that we often get questions on is, who's responsible for what road when it comes to the snow call operations and clearing and things like that. So on our website related to winter operations, we've developed a tool where it's really easy for the public to identify which are state routes, which are the routes maintained by ACHD. So we're able to really, hopefully front turn that a little bit and not take so many calls related to other facilities that are not within our jurisdiction. We also have agreements with some other highway districts on the boundary roads, where we do some and other highway districts do others related to Canyon County. So we've developed this. We're excited about it. But once again, a tool to have that we haven't had to use very much this winter, but we've developed it and we know we'll need it, whether if it's this winter or in future winters, we'll have that ready to go. So I wanted to highlight that also. Also, just a quick update. Big improvements in downtown Eagle. We got through phase 1. We're in the phase 2 of the downtown Eagle mobility improvements. This is massive projects right in the heart of downtown. This phase 2 includes the intersection of Eagle Road and State Street. So this is a very busy and visible intersection in downtown, along with other improvements right along the State Street in downtown Eagle. So a lot going on out there. Really excited to see this project with its final phase and close to completion. These improvements have really made a big difference, and we've gotten. I know you've heard a lot of feedback on this project. It's been really mostly positive, and I think the team who's been working on this, as you've heard, the inspector, the other members of the team out there have been doing a great job coordinating with the businesses and really leaning in on that, along with our communications department. So really glad to see this one up and underway. So on that note, just what's coming up next. I mentioned the Downtown Eagle project. We do have the construction kickoff coming up. I guess tomorrow is 1/23. The move out day, and then a few other items on the agenda or on our calendar. Once again, glad to be here tonight and glad to take any further questions you have.
Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Nelson?
Yeah, Madam President, there is a CICAC meeting on Monday. I didn't see it on here.
Oh, I may have missed that. Do we have yeah, there is a CICAC meeting on Monday. I apologize if that didn't hit the calendar.
And then the business meeting, I guess that's tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it runs all day. I'd have to look at my calendars. It started at 10 a.m. It starts at 9 a.m. It's kind of an open house format, so I'm really focused on the businesses first. And that's been our primary outreach group in the downtown Eagle Core. Been really successful. With the phase 1, when it started, we were doing weekly coordination meetings with businesses. Then obviously our inspectors are on site and have done a lot of coordination directly with businesses. That direct approach of, hey, I access this cone to that level of outreach and coordination.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Justin.
All right. Thanks, Justin, for the report. And we will be at ease until 6 o'clock. Welcome, everybody. It's now 6 o'clock. I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Thanks to everyone joining us in person and online, and please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion?
Not quite yet.
Commissioner Goldberg.
For the good faith reason of a computer error as to why the agenda for the February 22nd, 2025 meeting was not published 48 hours prior to the meeting, but more than 30 hours, I do move that the commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 74-204 accept the agenda as published and that the commission adopt the published agenda.
Hey, thanks. Just to clarify, it's January, not February.
Oh, I'm sorry, January 22nd.
Thank you.
I gotta have myself. Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next, order of business is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless the commissioner or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. All consent agenda items are commission action items unless noted. We do not have any such requests, so is there a motion?
Madam President,
Commissioner Pickering?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, there's a motion, a second.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Motion carries. That moves us to the regular agenda. Item number 1 is fiscal year 2024 financial audit request for approval, and Jen Humphries. Welcome.
Madam President, Commissioners, Jen Humphries, Executive Supervisor here at ACHD. And today we are asking the Commission to approve the audit for our FY24 financial statements. And here to give you guys kind of an update on that audit is our partner at Bailey, Kristen Pitts.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to talk with you today. Like Jen said, my name is Kristen Diggs. I am the partner over the audit engagement for ACHD. My plan is to go through and just talk about stuff very high level. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. As part of the audit, this is a process that we started back in September. We met with management, talked about the changes and everything that took place during the year. We started our interim field work the beginning of October and then came back out right before Thanksgiving and were able to issue it in January. So it is a process. It's not overnight, but it is over a couple months in which we do the audit. As part of the audit, you'll see on page 1 of the financial statements, hopefully you've had a chance to review them. It's our financial statement opinion. It is an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion. So what that means is based upon we're testing, we're able to get comfortable with the financial statements that were prepared by management. The other one, we have 2 more opinions that we issue as part of our financial statements. On page 52 of the document is our opinion over financial reporting and internal control. So as part of our procedures, we go through and we walk through the major processes. If we would have had any breakdowns in internal control, if we would have had any audit adjustments as related to audit procedures, this is where we have the opportunity to talk about it. We did not have any such ones, so it is an unmodified opinion. There aren't any findings. On page 57, as part of the audit that we go through and we look at your federal programs as well. In the current year, we looked at the highway planning construction, which is assistance listing 2205. So we look and compare it against the requirements, both from a compliance and a control perspective. And based upon that, we were able to issue an opinion. And again, it is a clean opinion. So there were no findings as a result of our testing. We did not have any audit adjustments based upon our audit procedures. We do have a past adjustment. What this is the accounting standards require the LGIP to be reported at fair market value. However, it does transact at $1. And so management just selects to pass on this every year. It's known. It's not a breakdown internal control. It's just, hey, we know it's out there. It's just give you a heads up. So with that, I don't have anything else unless you have any questions for me.
Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Nielsen?
Yeah, it's not such, I was just on page 12, I was surprised in terms of our major capital asset additions that the Meeker building wasn't listed.
Oh, it is. It is.
It's
in there.
talked about
It is
early
in there.
on, but it was added, I presume.
Yes, it was added and we did test it.
Yeah.
So
Excellent.
I do remember that.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you, Kristen.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so this is an action item. Is there a motion?
Yes, Madam President, I move that we approve the fiscal year 2024 financial audit.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item number 2 is the Apple Maintenance Complex Guaranteed Maximum Price Amendment number 2 with McAlvain Construction. Request for approval. Jennifer Behringer.
Good evening, President Gold, Commissioners. For the record, Jennifer Behringer, Deputy Director of Business Operations. I am excited to be here today to talk to you about the Apple Maintenance Complex and what will be our final guaranteed max price for discussion before you. So as you recall, and for the benefit of our new commissioner, we had a guaranteed max price that was given to us in 2 parts. The first part I brought to you, if you recall, back in October, GMP Amendment 1. That amendment included everything for the site work, demolition, some of the pre-work, and then the procurement of the long lead items, specifically pre-engineered metal buildings, to get that contractor on board so they could start merging in with design. So we needed to move on that quickly. That allowed then McAlvain to formalize the rest of the bids that they had received at the same time and formalize the rest of the guaranteed max price package. And that is what's before you today. That includes the architectural, structural, mechanical, plumbing work for all of the other vertical structures. So you've got mostly the admin building, which is one of the higher technical needs of the site, as well as our broom, drainage shed, decant, etc. And then also the more fine-tuned stuff, the landscaping, lighting, and signs are all part of GMP2. So GMP1 was the basic work to get them started. GMP2 is the rest of what it's going to take to build this yard. As you might recall, our initial construction estimate was around $47 million. This was based on our contractor's estimate of probable cost, and it was based primarily on that time frame between the 60%, 95% design. That was, again, their estimate based on their knowledge, the contractor's knowledge of how things were going on the economy at that time. Since that estimate, we've now got our construction bid to include GMP1 and GMP2, and those are the actual bids that have come in from the subcontracts. So this is our guaranteed max price, not to exceed $52,055,057. When we got our GMC2 bid and we saw the whole package of the construction bid, we wanted to take a quick step back. And that's why we pulled it off the agenda last week. And we had a really great discussion last week with McAlvain, our CMGC, and Lombard Conrad, our architect. And together we sat and figured what are some ways that we can maybe reduce some of this cost, because we recognize it did come in higher than our anticipations were. So very good discussion, very fruitful with our contractors, and they brought a lot of these things to us, and there were also things we had already been working on. Reuse as much as possible so that we're not needlessly buying something that we already have. A lot of discussion about building size, and these again were things that were brought forward with the architect, and it was a really good discussion. And we anticipate, we have we're very confident based on the letter that McAlvain gave us with some of these cost measures and what they think some of those savings are. We're not going to be needing the entire $52 million. We've already identified $1 to $1.5 million in savings potential for this contract, and we're continuing to find other areas. Specifically, when we first started this, we were basing it off of some designs for the TOC. And we have a lot of things that we've learned now that's finishing out. And we've been able to make a lot of savings based on decisions that were made or adjustments thereof. So moving forward, we do anticipate definitely being under that 52 million. So that brings us to our staff recommendation, and we ask that you approve the Apple Maintenance Complex guaranteed max price. And I will stand for any questions.
Commissioner Goldberg?
Yes, now this is a max price, and if it comes in lower, we're good, correct?
If it comes in lower, we don't spend that money, yes.
Because I'm just sure that when President Trump made his claims to lower prices during his inaugural address, we're gonna really see some, never mind.
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney?
Jennifer, the guaranteed maximum price contract, does that mean this is a contract where there are no possibilities of change orders and additional costs? Because construction contracts are notorious for, here's the bid amount, and then along the way, change orders pile up and increase the amount. Did McAlvain also do the design so that, is that correct? McAlvain, this is a design build? Or not?
Lombard Conrad, sorry, President Gold, Commissioner McKinney. Lombard Conrad is the architect for the design. McAlvain was brought in early so that they could put some logic into some of that design for the buildability.
Okay.
So they were working in concert.
So I guess what I'm asking is there still a possibility that there could be change orders and additional costs that go beyond this guaranteed maximum price amount that we've got?
President Gold, Commissioner McKinney, all of the changes will go through change orders. Some of them are going to be cost-saving change orders. Some of them will be change orders for things that are beyond the scope. If for some reason we change something in the design, like we were talking about reducing the size of the buildings, that would be a change order to change that. If there is anything that goes above the cost, then that would be discussed. It really depends on what we're talking about. Change orders will be used to track every change. I don't anticipate us ever going above the 52 million because of the cost savings that we've put in place. So we're already seeing some things that have popped up that were unexpected when they're doing the site work. And there are certain measures in place to adapt to those unknowns. So we should be fine for that. I would not expect the guaranteed max price to need a change order that's going to bring us above that dollar.
Okay, so to be clear then, when it says a guaranteed maximum price, it's not an absolute guarantee, is it?
It's a
We
guaranteed
don't
max.
anticipate it, but could still happen. So that's kind of a soft guarantee, it sounds like to
Well,
me.
Commissioner, President Gold, Commissioner McKinney, it's a guaranteed max price based on what they bid on. So if we as the government change what they're going to be building to, that would be a change. Right? It's a guaranteed max price based on the design and what we know.
Commissioner Nelson?
Yeah, hi Jennifer. So, yeah. I want to make sure, I think I read, we have, we are gonna need to put money in next year's budget. Is that correct for this? This is like this project spans 2 years. There was an amount budgeted, bids came in, and there'll be additional funding that'll be needed. Did I read that correctly?
Commissioner Gold,
Yeah.
Commissioner Nelson. We are looking at the budget and how we've currently budgeted, and there will be some movements between the fiscal years based on their spend plan.
The one thing that's out there that nobody knows is the impact of proposed tariffs, maybe on structural steel, depending on how that comes in. And so, but we would have an opportunity to learn about any impacts in a few months or as change orders go through, right? If there's a significant increase in one of the materials. Is that true? Or
It's a good
how do they
question.
estimate the cost of that steel, for example?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, President Gold, Commissioner Nielsen, I don't know how to answer that, but
Yeah.
right, it's an unknown.
I think that would come before.
Madam President, members of the commission. Yeah, there's always unknowns in a construction project. What I will promise you today is if there's a change in cost that goes above the guaranteed max price, You're gonna know about it, we're gonna talk about it, and we'll have discussions related to those changes. That has not been our experience on the Franklin facility. You know, we hire the CMGC to manage this for us. They provide these costs at this point. They call it a guaranteed max price for a reason, and we do everything we can to fit within that. And in this case, what we're telling you today is our goal is to be below that.
Commissioner Goldberg?
Justin, when do we place the order for the metal buildings?
So when, and I have to, was that part of GMP one?
It's part of GMP one, but the order, they're still working on the design.
So we're in the process now. I think if we get an order and we have those bids, which is why we're pressing to move forward. We want to move forward now and get those contracts in place and get this all going before any of those potential larger national economic issues may impact the project.
Exactly.
Commissioner Nelson?
Yeah, can I make a motion?
Commissioner
Wait, wait. Yeah, I'd like to move that we approve the guaranteed maximum price amendment number 2 with McAlvain Construction.
I'll second that.
Madam President.
Commissioner Pickering?
I just want to say, Jennifer, thank you for your work on this to sharpen the pencil. I mean, I can tell like how hard you're working on this and the whole team is, because it's, and not presenting something that's even bigger than this. So thank you for being really mindful of the tax burden and being, and also ushering a really quality yard that we can be proud of. So just really appreciate your expertise and the collaborative nature of your work with McAlvain and the architects, and just again trying to strive to meet the needs and then also not even come close to this guaranteed maximum price. Just appreciate that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, next on the agenda is discussion items, public communications. I know we have Winslow Johnson here to speak. So if you would like to come up and state your name and address for the record.
Madam President, Commissioners, Winslow Johnson, and I live on 2750 North Yount Way in Eagle. It's really close to Beacon Light and Park. It's kind of the intersection there. So the topic of conversation is Beacon Light. Really trying to figure out what we can do to resolve some of the issues that are happening on Beacon Light. Furthest I can go back is 2001, that complaints about Beacon Light have existed. I've interviewed a lot of people since that time to figure out what's going on. There's basically 3 problems. There's a quality of life problem, there's a safety problem, and there's a noise problem. I live just off of Beacon Light, 2 or 3 houses away, so I'm not right on it. But traffic starts between 3 and 3:30 in the morning. And when I say traffic, I mean straight piped diesel trucks, gravel trucks. They end in the summer around 8, 9 o'clock at night. Neighbors, we cannot use our backyards. I've got a bid to re-insulate my house and put 3-pane windows in my whole house. That's the cost of $120,000. So the question I have is, do I stay or do I move? And so I know that traffic needs to flow. I'm not trying to be unrealistic, but my kids can't go on bikes. We can't go out on the neighborhood. We can't go on that road to get anywhere if you don't have a car. We can't use our backyards. None of our neighbors invite people over to the house because it's just so loud. I sat at the bequest of Brad, Mayor of Eagle, to just kind of count traffic one day to see what's going on. And we averaged in the summer 57 gravel trucks an hour. It's almost 1 a minute driving back and forth. I've followed these trucks. They start in Star, they end in Boise. Most of the trucks do not provide services inside that corridor to Eagle. And so it's an issue. We've had 1 death in the last 2 years there. I was riding my bike recently on Christmas Eve, and a guy went right 2 or 3 inches. I got it on video, 2 or 3 inches away from my handlebars because there's not enough room, and stopped on the side of the road and pretty much wanted to kill me. I have it on video. I've given it to the police officer, and we'll figure out what we're going to do with that. But that is the life that we live on Beacon Light. I've asked someone from ACHD to perform a traffic study. I was informed that the traffic study has already been done when it was ever done. There was no need for it. In the morning to go to school for my son, There is a line for all the kids trying to get to Eagle High School. We have one access road and it goes on to Beacon Light. They have a very hard time getting in and out of our neighborhood, and it's very dangerous. The noise problem is an issue. Safety is an issue. When we first moved here, I'm 5th generation Idaho. And when we moved back to Boise area, I rented a house 3 years ago to find out where we really wanted to move. And I rode my bike back and forth on Beacon Light the entire summer. I can't do that today. None of my neighbors can ride bikes. There's no sidewalks. And when I talked to the Eagle Council and the Eagle Mayor, and I've been working with them for a year and a half, they came to my house. I'm a homeowner association president, and I don't want to get homeowner association involved in any of this, but the fact that we're all agreeing on this, and the mayor's been to there is kind of fingers pointing back and forth between what City of Eagle can do versus what ACHD can do. The bottom line is, I know I'm done, I'll end it in 20 seconds. We've got to solve something. We've got to figure out how we're going to do it. There will be more deaths on that road. It is a challenge. Cars are not going to stop. Traffic flow is not going to stop. And I need to be realistic. There needs to be cars going back and forth and trucks going back and forth. I get that. But at 3 o'clock in the morning, at 3:30, do we have to have straight pipe, Kenworth trucks or diesel trucks that are out of compliance with just normal code? And that's an enforcement. I get that. That's Eagle. But there's an issue. The amount of money we pay for the houses, I added it up just along the Beacon corridor, just using average fair market value. It's $2 billion if you just go one house and two houses off of Beacon, north and south, from 16 to 55. That's a $2 billion investment for people who live in this community. And we're really tired of it. So any suggestions that you have, love to hear it. I'm pretty tenacious. I'm not going to give up. We're going to keep going, figure out what we're going to do. This is just the next step in what we got to do. So if you have any suggestions, I'm open and I'll help everywhere I can. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We can't take action during public comment, but really appreciate you coming and sharing your concerns. And I'm your commissioner, so I'm happy to connect with you about, things that we've already assessed and, other options and involve the mayor and whatever else. So happy
Thank you
to
very
do that.
much.
Yeah, thanks again.
Appreciate you.
Right, are there any other folks in person or online that would like to speak to the commission? Seeing none, we are adjourned. And that moves us to the post-commission agenda. We have a work session, impact fee, capital improvement plan update, traffic impact fee eligibility for collectors and roadways. And I have Edinson, but
Yeah, we
You
always
are
put
not.
Edinson, but we take turns. So good evening, Madam President and members of the commission. My name is Megan Anderson. I'm the Impact Fee Administrator here at ACHD, and I'm the co-manager for the Impact Fee and Capital Improvement Plan update, along with Edinson Batista, who is our ACHD Senior Transportation Planner. In today's meeting, staff and the consultants, Sonia Delyden and Mark Heisinger from Kittleson and Associates, are back again in front of the commission to continue the presentation series on the Impact Fee CIP Update Preliminary Analysis tasks. So far in this series, we've covered the topic of service area with 2 presentations back in May and July 2024. And then in October 2024, we presented on the impact fee eligibility for a range of projects. Today, we're continuing the preliminary analysis discussions with the topic of impact fee eligibility for collector roadways. In this presentation, we'll provide information on which public facilities are impact fee qualifying as defined in the Idaho Development Impact Fee Act, and we'll provide an overview of ACHD's current practices related to collector roadways, present findings from the peer agency review, and provide recommendations to the commission on this topic. And with that, I'll turn the time over to Sonia and Mark, who will lead us in today's presentation.
Megan. Welcome.
Am I speaking into this or I am? Okay. Good evening, Commission. President Gold, thank you for having us here tonight. Again, I'm Sonia Delyden with Kittleson and Associates. And as Megan mentioned, we're here today to present a presentation and hear your feedback on the topic of the collector roadways. As a reminder, we started this process on the impact fee and CIP update back in late summer of 2023, where we started the process with a visioning session. And as Megan highlighted, we've been coming to you as well as your Citizens Advisory Committee with work sessions on various topics that came out of that visioning session and our national best practice review since that time. We're here today, actually this arrow should probably go a little bit further, but we're here today to continue those deep dives into the visioning topics with collector roadways. As a reminder, these are the 4 topics that were part of our best practice review that came out of our visioning sessions: service area, range of projects that are in the CIP and can be impact fee eligible. And today we're focusing on collector roadways. So the third of the 4 topics. So we are making progress through this. As we have done with the previous topics, we'd like to start with, what does the Idaho Development Impact Fee Act say about collector roadways? So the Idaho Development Impact Fee Act clearly outlines what impact fees can fund. It can fund construction, improvement, expansion, or enlargement of public facilities. And those projects must be based on capacity demands needed by new development. It cannot fund any projects that are solely based on maintenance or the process of meeting a new standard that is driving the project. And it does clearly define what public facilities are, or what it considers to be public facilities. One of those definitions of public facilities are roads and streets. So from the definition of public facility in the Development Impact Fee Act, collector roadways would meet that definition of public facilities. Another key definition in the Impact Fee Act that it lays out is the distinction between a system improvement and a project improvement. So the Impact Fee Act defines system improvements as being the type of improvements that are impact fee eligible. And those system improvements are the type of public facility that's designed to provide service to your service area. And as Megan mentioned, we had 2 detailed meetings about service areas. It contrasts the system improvements to project improvements, which are improvements it defines as improvements that provide service to particular developments and are necessary for the use and the occupants of those developments. And it defines these project improvements as not being impact fee eligible, but ACHD does have the leverage to condition those types of improvements through your conditions of approval that you have with developments within Ada County. Per ACHD policy and how ACHD policy defines collector roadways, collector roadways would fall under the project improvement per your policy. Your policy has definitions of arterial roadways, collector roadways, local roadways, and how your policy defines collectors is that they are those facilities that provide access between your regional or arterial system to the local roads and the local developments that occur within Ada County. To highlight our peer agency review summary, this table presents some of the agencies that were reviewed that have specific policy as it relates to collectors and how they include or don't include collectors in their impact fees and their capital improvement plans. I think the key takeaway from this table is that each agency has different policy in terms of how they view collector roadways. Some agencies are similar to ACHD in terms of that they don't define collector roadways as regional facilities or regional arterials. Some do, so that may be why they include collectors in their CIP. Each of these agencies, I guess with the exception of Idaho Falls, because it is in Idaho as well, have their own statewide impact fee acts that they must meet. And those impact fee acts may have different requirements than what the Idaho one does. So you can see here, half of the agencies that we reviewed from a collector roadway standpoint don't or follow a procedure very similar to ACHD, where they don't include collectors in their impact fee act, in their impact fees and their CIPs, but the other half did for various reasons and differences in policy and their impact fee acts. We did have some agencies that we reviewed that said they sort of do it both ways, if you will. They do fund collectors through impact fees, or they would do it through a development exaction. They don't take one approach or the other. But the feedback we did receive from those agencies that do that says it can be confusing and challenging to administer because of that different approach for different collectors. A highlight for you of ACHD's current practice as how you implement new collectors and how you address projects on existing collectors. So for new collectors, you plan those on your master street map and indicate those on your master street map. That is done through your planning process as well as through collaboration with your partner land use agencies. And then those new collectors, your current practice is to require growth and development to build those when they are needed for growth and adjacent growth and development. The right-of-way dedication and construction for those new collectors is fully funded by development and growth. And then once those collector roadways are built, ACHD assumes ownership of those collectors and will maintain them in the future. For projects on existing collectors, those projects typically are not impact fee eligible because for existing collectors, typically the projects that you have on those roadways are maintenance. They may be addressing an existing deficiency, such as filling a sidewalk gap, or they may include projects to upgrade the facility to meet ACHD newer standards or newer practices. But you still do have projects on those existing collectors. Those are planned through the ACHD 5-year plan and funded through non-impact fee sources, other revenue from your general fund or highway users fund, or community projects.
Madam President.
Commissioner McKinney?
Sonia, just to clarify though, if we have a collector that was built originally using impact fees and so on, and then over time, because of development nearby, but maybe not right on that collector, it needs upgrading, it needs widening, what have you, to meet new traffic demands, that would still be impact fee eligible, would it not? The widening of a collector that was built with impact fees originally, it now is under capacity because of increasing development in other places, that would still be impact fee eligible, would it not, to widen that, to improve that?
So it could be impact fee eligible. ACHD's current practice has not to be include collector roadways in that demand and capacity analysis. And we discussed this with staff at length because we asked the same question you had. And typically, or the response that we got from staff and then in reviewing historical projects is that is just not a project that typically ACHD is doing. Your collectors, when they are built, they are typically built to the standard that ACHD foresees them being needed. Because of the policy, your policy definition of collectors, ACHD is not seeing the need for 5-lane, 7-lane collectors. They are typically 2 or 3 lanes, and they carry the amount of traffic that your policy defines them to carry with that cross section. And so the feedback we received and what we reviewed is that ACHD is not seeing the need for sort of capacity improvements on collectors. Now, I will say, and we do have slides coming up here, there has been the rare case in the past where a roadway that was designated as a collector is now no longer functioning as a collector, and ACHD through your planning process, or maybe through feedback from your partner land use agency, is seeing this particular roadway is no longer functioning as a collector, and it should be reclassified to an arterial, because we're seeing that is how it's functioning. It's meeting our definition of arterial. And that has happened in the past, where that reclassification has gone forward. And then that roadway then would be eligible and would be brought into your CIP and impact fee process.
Okay, so I guess the bottom line is that basically it could happen that we could use impact fees for improving a collector, but it's unlikely to happen. So that's basically the bottom line, isn't it?
President Gold, Commissioner McKinney, I would say that's accurate.
Okay.
And I would also say if and when ACHD is seeing the need from a capacity and traffic growth to widen a collector as a CIP project, it probably means that collector roadway is no longer functioning as a collector roadway as defined in ACHD policy, and probably should be revisited and reevaluated.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great. Excellent question. I will say there is some exception to how ACHD current practice may address projects on existing collectors. Sometimes when redevelopment occurs along a maybe older collector, frontage improvements are required either by the local land use agency or ACHD due to that development. So that may be a situation where some requirements are happening on existing collectors. Building off maybe some of the questions that were coming and what we were discussing, we did take a broad look at what some options could be for addressing collector roadways. We did review an option and consider an option for what if we changed historical ACHD practice and included all new collectors in the CIP and the impact fee program. What would that look like? How would that play out? We reviewed and considered what if we take certain collectors, maybe those collectors, as we just discussed, that are seeing new traffic demand, are being impacted for growth, and maybe should be reclassified. We took that approach and said, what would that do to the CIP projects and the impact fee program? And then we compared those two options against, what if we continue to maintain ACHD's current approach where new collectors are not considered in the CIP and impact fee program, but they are funded and built through growth through another mechanism. And so we walked through these, we compared and contrasted these, but even going back to the visioning process that we started a year and a half ago, the investigation around collector roadways really boiled down to three questions that we heard from the Citizens Advisory Committee, that we heard from the Commission, and that we heard from some of the partner agencies as well. And so those are the three questions on the screen. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mark now to really walk through how those scenarios that we evaluated compared and how they differ for these three key questions.
Hi, Commissioners. Mark Heisinger, also with Kittleson, and I'll take it from here from Sonia. So I'll just walk through these one by one and hopefully provide some more information for this group. So the first question I'll dive into, and that's, is the existing approach that ACHD has taken the most effective way to fund and complete new collector roadways? And I want to emphasize we're really focusing on the construction of new collector roadways over these next couple slides and talking points here. So based on our evaluation of ACHD's current approach and our conversations with ACHD staff and evaluation of other potential options, our answer to this question is yes. ACHD's approach has been and is the most effective at constructing new collectors. And we think that the answer to this question is best summarized by the three statements made on this screen. So number one is that new collectors right now are fully funded and constructed by growth at no capital cost to ACHD And really the only resources required of ACHD is the time of ACHD staff to review the proposed designs and confirm that these collectors do meet ACHD standards and policies. Number two is that Growth constructs really the full cross-section of these new collectors. So this includes bicycle and pedestrian facilities, intersection improvements, and other elements in accordance to ACHD policy and roadway standards. And then number three, new collectors are built by development when exactly needed to serve adjacent land uses. This helps to coordinate the needs between the land use and transportation elements of a development and provides more flexibility to meet these unique needs. And it also takes the burden of project prioritization and programming of new collector projects off of ACHD staff. So this slide right here shows the master street map and collectors that have been constructed from 2014 to 2024. Those are shown by all those small purple lines that you can see on the map. And in these cases, when development occurred adjacent to future collectors shown in the master street map, development was required to build the collectors based on ACHD policy, kind of when they came in to pursue the development. There have been about 40 miles of new collector roadways constructed over the last 10 years using just kind of high-level planning estimates. That's about $150 million worth of investment that's been made entirely by growth with limited support and resources needed from ACHD. And we just thought this was a really good way of illustrating how effective development has been in constructing the collector network just at a high regional level. Zooming in a little bit, that last slide was really focused on the high-level impacts of ACHD policy in regards to new collector construction, but we wanted to zoom in and show a specific example. So this picture outlines the Oakways collector, which is a mid-mile collector just southeast of the State Highway 16 Chinden Boulevard intersection that was constructed by development in the last couple of years. So when a single-family housing development went in, ACHD policy required that they coordinate to build this mid-mile collector that had already been identified in the master street map as a future roadway. So when that happened, development coordinated with land use partners to construct the entire cross-section of this roadway, including bike lanes and sidewalks, in conjunction with the adjacent land uses and housing elements. This benefited ACHD as growth built a part of the system at no cost to the district. And it also benefited development by giving them flexibility to construct the road when it was needed to serve the development and in a way that best fit the specific needs of the land use components of the development. So in summary, and to reiterate kind of what we had shown on that first slide, our findings indicate that the current approach for constructing new collectors is really the most effective. It puts the full fiscal and construction responsibility on growth as opposed to ACHD and existing taxpayers. It ensures that the timing of land use and roadway improvements are coordinated, providing development with roadway connections exactly when it is needed to serve the development, and removing the need to include new collectors in ACHD's prioritization and programming process. And finally, the direct coordination between the land use and transportation elements provide development with flexibility to meet unique situations and needs that come up with each development. So moving on to the second question we have, and that's really getting to updates to existing collectors. And the first question we'll address is, how do we address updates to existing collectors under ACHD's current policy and processes? So the needs on existing collectors are typically identified through input from partner agencies, public input, neighborhood plans, and other planning processes. The majority of these needs needs result in projects related to things like bicycle pedestrian facilities, speed management, safety, and some of the other categories that are shown on this screen. These projects are typically not impact fee eligible as they are related to maintenance, updates to new standards, and addressing existing deficiencies, which are all items that are specifically called out in the Impact Fee Act as non-impact fee eligible. So taking this information into consideration, we do not see the use of impact fees for funding of ACHD projects on existing collectors as a feasible option. So given that projects on existing collectors are typically not impact fee eligible and part of the CIP, we still wanted to highlight that ACHD has very specific processes on how these projects are identified, prioritized, and implemented. And that process is illustrated on the slide. And as you can see, the CIP is really one of many processes and plans that feed into the 5-year plan. And projects on existing collectors are included in the other plans that are shown on the screen. So things like neighborhood plans and the bike master plan. So the final question that we really wanted to touch on the collector topic is, are communities with limited arterial roads receiving benefits from impact fees? And this is really a question that we've heard particularly from residents and representatives from some of the land use agencies within Ada County. So we wanted to start things off by showing a graph of the miles of arterial roadways for each land use agency in Ada County. And as you can see, there is definitely a difference in the types of roadways that each agency has within their boundaries. So there's a very high amount of our arterial roads within Boise. There's a high amount within Meridian as well, and as well as rural Ada County, so over 100 miles in some cases. But when you look at other jurisdictions, such as Garden City and Star, that number is a lot less, so less than 20 miles for Garden City and Star. So we really just wanted to start here to acknowledge the differences in these roadway systems and to acknowledge why somebody living in Garden City or Star, who probably will not see many projects funded via impact fees directly within the boundaries of their jurisdiction, might not feel like they're receiving the benefits from how impact fees are being spent. However, we don't think this slide tells the entire story of how those benefits are received. So this slide may look familiar for some of the commissioners, as we've shared it before in previous topics related to the CIP. And what this shows is the average trip length beginning and ending within each jurisdiction. And as you can see, it generally varies between 8 to 12 miles and averages about 9 miles. And really the point of this slide is to show that the majority of trips within Ada County, particularly in some of these geographically smaller jurisdictions like Garden City and Star, are leaving the boundaries of their jurisdiction on most trips and traveling to communities that do have a larger arterial network. So while we do want to acknowledge the concerns of residents of some of these communities that have about the lack of impact fees being spent on projects directly within the boundaries of their jurisdictions, the data shows us that they're still traveling on the arterial network and benefiting from roadway projects that were funded by impact fees outside of their jurisdiction's boundaries. So this is the last slide that I have on this topic, and it's really highlighting an existing ACHD process that addresses this question. Sonia stole my thunder earlier talking about this in response to Commissioner McKinney's question, but really what we're trying to show here is that with every update to the master street map and CIP, roadways can be reclassified by staff based on traffic data, land use patterns, and coordination with partner agencies. And as Sonia explained, really, if a collector roadway shows the characteristics that reflects that it should be a different classification like an arterial. ACHD currently does this, and even in the last year, there are examples of collectors that were reclassified to residential arterials and therefore would be impact fee eligible. Pollard Lane and Plummer Road and Star are an example. Those are both currently 2-lane roads that were previously collectors but reclassified as residential arterials. And in subsequent CIP updates, if a deficiency related to vehicle capacity is identified on these roadways under future conditions, portions of the cost to widen these to 3 lanes would be eligible for impact fee funding. So just wanted to highlight this as a current policy that ACHD has in place to address collectors that may be functioning more as arterials. So this is the last slide that I'll have for the commission today, and it summarizes our recommendations related to ACHD's practice of constructing new collectors and implementing projects on existing collectors. And these recommendations are really based on our evaluation of the questions shown on the previous slides. So for the construction of new collectors, our recommendation is to maintain ACHD's current practice as the cost is put 100% on growth, providing a benefit to ACHD and taxpayers. The timing of the construction of a new collector is exactly coordinated with growth. New collectors are built by development when needed to serve adjacent land uses. And it also avoids the need for ACHD to include new collector roads in their prioritization and programming process. And then finally, it requires development to implement both the transportation and land use elements of a development, thereby supporting coordination between those two elements. For improvements to existing collectors, we found that the majority of ACHD needs and projects on existing collector roadways are not eligible for funding via impact fees. So we recommend maintaining ACHD's current approach of funding these improvements through other means. And then finally, with each update to the master street map and CIP, we recommend that ACHD maintains the current practice of reviewing and assessing existing collectors for reclassification. And this will really just continue to help ACHD identify collector roads that should and can be funded via impact fees rather than other sources. So based on these recommendations, we'd like to open the floor to any question or input from the commission.
Commissioner Goldthorpe?
Yes, I appreciate this a lot because it's very well explained and pretty much anyone should understand this. I know we have probably at least a $500 million worth of arterial projects identified in our CIP. And if we did nothing else with the CIP but build those out, we'd be able to spend probably 100% of our impact fees right now just on those projects. So to expand what impact fees are eligible for, in my mind, makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Commissioner Pickering?
Thanks, Madam President. Thank you for your work and your presentation on this. I think it's pretty, I voiced my opinion and frustration, I think, with our state statute and how, and you kind of captured that really eloquently about how the needs that we're seeing on these collectors and like what needs to be improved are not eligible based off of our current state statute. And I just need to voice it because I've got constituents that watch. It's like, that's really frustrating because when I'm talking to constituents, like the impacts from these new developments that are impact fee, that we do collect impact fees for, you know, though they're feeling the pinch of that development in different ways, right? It looks different on a collector than it does on an arterial. So I guess just acknowledging the fact that our state statute does not support or create flexibility for us to support what growth looks like and how that looks different in different communities like Garden City or certain parts of the Boise Bench, which is in my district. But I think what you laid out, I totally would agree with. Like, I feel like what we've got going on for us right now in terms of not having collectors be eligible makes sense given our state statute. But it's still a little frustrating considering my constituents that desperately need support and funding for roads within their neighborhoods that are impacted drastically by development. So, and I think obviously you'd highlighted Garden City, Chinden being the main thoroughfare through that community, right? And the state statute, I would assume, is impacting ITD's ability, right, to also put in impact fees that are adjacent or on that roadway, right? Because it doesn't have to stay on ITD's roadway right there, does it?
Yeah, President Gold, Commissioner Pickering. Yeah, I appreciate your comments and input. To answer that question with ITD, I'm not sure exactly what it is. I believe right now they're prohibited from collecting impact fees really for.
That's right.
Yeah,
I forgot
for
about
any
that.
types of road. And I'm not sure what that mechanism is specifically, but.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Nielsen?
Okay, this might be a question for Justin. In my district, we have a large employer, expanding even bigger. And I'm just curious on the timing of new demographics that would, with the CIP schedule and looking at our impacts to potential existing collectors. Can you just give me a update on if that will be part of the CIP new demographics or not?
Madam President, Commissioner Nielsen. So what we've done historically and with this update is rely on the Compass model with the reconciled demographics. So they do a reconciliation process. And so we have accounted for much of the, through the reconciliation process, most of the employment growth, I believe, has been captured. The housing growth in the, I imagine you're talking about the large development near Eisenman Road and
Exactly.
that area. Planning efforts in and around that area, and also landowners in and around that area who may or may not want to develop. And so that's kind of the best we have right now. We have made modifications to our CIP recently and are reviewing through this update those potential roadway additions that are needed in that area, specifically a connection from Eisenman to Columbia Way. And so we are being responsive, as responsive as we can with what we know now to the potential impacts of that large growth area.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I just wanted to add, I was going to ask, and it was kind of, we got there anyway, on changes to the master street map when our collectors grow up and become arterials. So that is that something, what are the metrics for identifying those collectors when they should be reclassified as arterials?
Madam President, Commissioner Nilsson, it's a really good question. What we've relied on historically, and this is relatively a new practice as we've worked with communities that have raised these concerns specifically out in Star and Eagle and other areas. We do look at traffic volumes and roadway characteristics. One of the things we have kind of a benefit of south of the river is the mile grid makes it pretty easy to identify a collector street. When you get north of the river, the mile grid breaks up pretty clearly, and so it's a little harder to identify those roads that may or may not become more attractive and need more capacity. But with Palmer and Plummer, a lot of that was done in direct coordination with the city based on land use decisions that they have made over the past 10 years. And then looking at the outcomes of those land use decisions and saying, yes, we agree now that what was once maybe a sleepy, more rural road is now becoming, through those growth-related decisions, some of which were anticipated, some of which may not have been. That's how we approach it. So that I can't show you the table we use, but with traffic volumes specifically, there's a pretty good metric. You get over 4,000 or 5,000 cars per day, and you start to kind of get in that area of an extremely busy collector or a minor arterial. And we probably have some minor arterials that are a little less than that, and maybe there's some busy collectors that are a little more than that. So it's in that range of 5,000 vehicles per day where you start to ask yourself, what's going on here? And then you look at directness of the route, what it connects to. A lot of those roads connect to a state highway, which impacts those decisions. So those are the kinds of features we consider.
Okay, perfect answer. Thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you. Thanks so much to Mark and Sonia and Megan and Edinson. Thanks for all your work on this. I'll agree that, there are larger impacts from development that aren't impact fee eligible. But I'll agree with the recommendation that those aren't really to be addressed through including collectors in the CIP. So I would also ask that you send the presentation to the commission as well as you have with the past ones, but really appreciate your work on it. And thank you.
President Gold, thank you.
All right, and that's the last item on the agenda. So we will see you all in February.
Oh, yeah.